สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to webinar of ProPak Asia 2020, which is supported by Thai Beverage Association. So I'm Rose Chitanuwat, who will be the moderator for the session today. Apologize for the technical problem now, so please stay with us in next 3 seconds. The supporter for the ProPak Asia. So this webinar is mainly concentrate on the beverage industry together with the warehouse sector or even the logistics solution that can provide the solution for our beverage industry across the world. So Thailand is named as the high level of the exporting number. We are even in the food sector number 11 for exporting the food for the world. So right now today, as the Beverage Association is our supporter today, we have our guest speaker from well-known company on the logistics and warehousing named CHEP, CHEP. You can see from the video of the Thai Beverage Association already that CHEP is also the member. Why we have CHEP today? CHEP is the pallet container pooling service who provide a solution, but very interesting that they have come up with a lot of solution on bringing the digital into their service. And also they are leader on the sustainability, which is the actual sustainability practice in the world. So today we have the guest speaker who are experts on the logistics, on the safety on the logistics, on warehousing, and the importance of hygiene in implementing the warehousing and pallet food pooling service, which is definitely will bring the cost, but we would learn from them how this service could help you to save cost of goods sold for your industry. Thank you for all the audience today, and we are going to be together for 1.5 hours. So here with me, I think I have guest speaker from Australia with me already. So first of all, the topic for today is very big one on the logistic direction during COVID. Despite of COVID-19, there is no business stop in terms of if we have proper logistic and solution provide. So today I have Mr. Craig Johnson. He is the CHEP SHE Asia Pacific Director. He is going to present to you how safety of the logistics and how CHEP adapt themselves to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. This is our speaker from Australia. Let's hear about what CHEP service in terms of their adjustment, and we will learn more. We have a lot of guest speakers today. Stay tuned with us. So may I invite Mr. Craig? Are you ready? You may share your video screen. สวัสดีค่ะ Mr. Craig.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome. So I give the stage to you.
Beautiful. Thanks for the opportunity for speaking today and having the opportunity to share some of the learnings that we've had within CHEP in relation to COVID-19. So I'm just going to share my screen.
All right, we see your screen. Yeah.
You can see that okay?
All right, okay.
Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to talk on 5 main points today. We'll talk about the initial planning we did within CHEP. We'll talk about some business protocols that we developed in response to COVID-19. We'll talk about how we trained our personnel, both in the office and in our factories, and what ongoing review and monitoring we do within the business, and this is still occurring today. And also I'll take you through our response to a couple of positive COVID-19 cases we've had within Asia Pacific. So the most important thing we've found with COVID-19 is rigorous pre-planning. And so we really started within Asia Pacific. We started planning in January in response to China lies within our Asia Pacific region. And so our team in China were sharing information almost on a daily basis with us on the emerging situation in Wuhan. We had a couple of service centres in Hubei province that were directly affected, and so that information was fed back through the APAC safety team and to the country leadership teams within Asia Pacific. So one of the first things, as you know, you may not know, Brambles owns CHEP. So Brambles is our parent company, and Brambles formed a global steering team, and that steering team had primary responsibility for overseeing the development of some broad operational frameworks, advising on travel restrictions within the business, and then putting some controls around both internal and external communication. One of the important things that they did as well was they set up a SharePoint site that we all access globally, and that became a critical vehicle for sharing best practices as we develop them. Within Asia Pacific, the country crisis management teams were mobilised. Now, it wasn't called out as a defined crisis at that point, but for the pre-planning, this is well before COVID landed on the other shores within our region. But the crisis management teams became the local COVID steering teams, and those teams are still in place today. So they had regular meetings. They advised on protocols for screening incoming travellers, particularly in Australia. When we started to see COVID come into Australia, it was on the back of return travellers, mainly from mainland China, people coming back from holidays after Chinese New Year. So we had a screening process, internal screening process developed for that. Operations teams were asked to develop local protocols. We formulated local communications plans within each country, and then some regionally consistent plans. And we kept a register of everyone within Asia Pacific that either went for a COVID test or was a close contact of someone who had a COVID test, or was a return traveller who had to go into quarantine. So anyone who was required to quarantine, we had a register so that we could monitor their situation and keep tabs and basically keep across their well-being. So the next thing we did, the global steering team provided a global framework, but the detail was filled in by the individual countries. So it was a global framework, but the detail was local context. And to fill in that context, we had one thing we did very well, I thought, was reach out to expertise, both external expertise and internal expertise. So we partnered with a food safety science company called the Aitchison Group. They were based out of the US. So they provided some scientific advice as we were developing some sanitation procedures, looking at what chemicals might be effective, and also looking at quarantine periods of product and people that we might need. The global safety team was engaged, so we monitored the world or the global health websites, looking at emerging trends across the globe and within each of the regions. And we would share that updated advice with the local steering teams. So the country steering teams, their primary responsibility was to monitor the local situation, but also allocate local work streams. And some of the 4 key things that were managed by that steering team were protocols around personal hygiene and cleaning, social distancing, entry protocols for both our service centres and our offices, and also event reporting and contact tracing within our business. So let's talk a little bit more about those business protocols that were developed. So 2 parts of these, we'll look at the operations facilities and also our office-based facilities as well. So the overriding principles that we were trying to achieve were to keep people apart when they were within our facilities so that people didn't become a close contact of each other. If you recall, the definition of a close contact was if you are within 1.5 metres of someone who has been diagnosed with COVID for longer than 15 minutes. So we wanted to introduce protocols that stopped people becoming close contacts of anyone else, irrespective of whether they had COVID or not. And the other important message was to stay at home if you were feeling sick. So if they were exhibiting any of those symptoms you see on the screen there, indicative of COVID-19, then don't come to work, but let us know. And then we would monitor their health moving forward. So some of the more specific things we did in the service centres, so we staggered shift start and finish time, so we didn't have 2 work shifts cross over on the site or in change rooms. There were medical declarations and temperature checks with infrared thermometers for everyone coming onto site, visitors and staff, every day, and they continue at the moment. We excluded non-critical parties from the site, so we still allowed obviously truck drivers who are our customers and maintenance contractors onto the sites, but other meetings on site, external visitors were excluded. And we also restricted team meetings to smaller groups. And you'll see a photo, a lot of times we had team meetings out on the floor at the middle of the factory because we could space people out more effectively there. Some other things we did at our operational facilities, we identified common touch points around the site, and these were cleaned more frequently, both out in the factory and in lunch and common rooms. Our forklifts were cleaned every time there was a change in driver. We had reduced capacities in lunchrooms, so lunches were held over staggered lunch breaks. We erected clear screens where people would normally work side by side or opposite each other, and you can see an example of that at one of our crate washing machines there. And also at our reception desks where truck drivers would come in to process transactions, we erected screens throughout the business there. So within the offices, again, those same key messages that we were impressing on people. We structured the office to keep people apart, and then we're actively encouraging people to stay at home if they're feeling unwell. When our offices started reopening, and it was some regions opened before others, but as they started to reopen, we reopened with more flexible working arrangements. We trained people before they were allowed to come back into the office. And again, we had medical declarations and temperature checking before people were allowed into the office every day. One of the other things we did, whilst we still had a number of people working from home, that was a big change for everyone. And so we did a number of one-on-one calls to every worker that was office worker that was working from home, just to check on did they have a safe work setup at home, and also monitoring their physical and their mental well-being. And particularly, you'll be aware that Melbourne in Australia has had quite a severe outbreak. They're a lot better now, but our people working at home in Melbourne had at least 3 rounds of calls just checking that they were okay. Some other things in the offices, again, we had no external visitors. So we didn't bring customers in, and we didn't go out to customers to hold meetings. Common areas and touch points were cleaned more frequently. We removed all of the shared utensils and cups out of the kitchen, so you had to bring your own cups and plates and knives and forks. And also you'll see, this is an example of the North Ryde office in Australia, where we have had, if you can see my cursor, these black things sitting on top of the dividers hold a Perspex screen that sits in there. So they're not screwed to the dividers, but we positioned these around the top so that people sitting opposite each other could have that, that screen. So training, I mentioned that training, everyone was trained before they came back to the office, but in our service centres, our facilities, they never stopped operating throughout COVID. And as we developed our operational protocols, and this was before COVID became a real issue in each of the countries, we had our teams trained in what those protocols were going to be once COVID hit. One other change that we made was moving from large classroom type training with our factory workers to what we call a verification of competency. So where a supervisor will engage with the worker out near their workstation to just ask them some questions and check that they were actually demonstrating the knowledge that they needed to do the task. And that qualifies as refresher training. So we moved from that large classroom training where it was very hard to socially distance to more one-on-one training where the assessor could stay a safe distance away from the worker and just assess how they were doing in a particular task. In the office environment, we developed an induction booklet. It's an online booklet. We still use it today, and this was used to give people an introduction of what they could expect when they started to come back into the office. And I will give you a quick demonstration. So hopefully this works. Okay, so can I just check that people can see that on the screen now?
Yes, we can see on the screen.
Thank you. Okay, so it was an online booklet that we asked people to go through on their own, and it had a series of videos attached. And one of those videos, for example, would demonstrate what we expected people to do in meetings. And I'll just play that video now. So what we asked people to do was to sanitize their hands before they came into the meeting. We actually used, over here, we call them pool noodles. They're a flotation device that kids use in swimming pools, but they're actually 1.5 metres long. So we use these as props around the office to just remind people what 1.5 metres looked like. So that was starting the meeting, and then this one is demonstrating at the end of the meeting what we expected of people, which was essentially sanitize the area that you were working in. So we supplied sanitizing wipes as well as the hand sanitizer. And what people were asked to do was, at the end of the meeting, wipe down the area where they were sitting and also wipe down the common touch points, in this case, the phone as well. Okay, so that's an example. That's an example of the embedded video. So that just gives you a bit of a flavour of the induction booklet that we used. so what I'll do is, sorry, I'll just exit out of this, go back to full screen. Okay. So the next one, again, really important. We had regular meetings to monitor the situation during COVID. So the Brambles, the global steering team had regular meetings. Our country steering teams had regular meetings. And there were fortnightly situation reports produced by the global team so that we could actually see what was going on across the globe as well. The country steering teams had a fairly regular agenda. We would review the well-being of any affected people that were currently being monitored, as pending tests or quarantined. We would look at any regulatory changes that had occurred across the country, and look at if that required an updated response within our facilities. We would review any current impacts on the supply chain, customers, employee relations or communications, and we'd also review any emerging issues that had arisen since the last meeting. So, so what did we do? So we thought that it might have been on the cards that that we were going to get a positive case eventually in Melbourne, especially because of the large number of cases being seen across the community in Melbourne. And we did have two. They were unrelated cases, and they were both contracted in the community. They weren't contracted at our work sites. However, we had planning in place for the eventuation that we may get a case. So some of that planning was that we had a risk map done within our Melbourne sites of common touch points, and we broke the sites down into zones. If a worker in a particular zone was positive, we knew the areas that we needed to deep clean, because it didn't necessarily mean we had to deep clean the whole factory. We had COVID controls well established at that point, especially the social distancing measures and the wearing of masks. Every site across Asia Pacific had to have a deep cleaning contractor pre-arranged in case they were needed, and this was the same in Melbourne. And we had already a robust reporting process where our workers were very open about if they were feeling unwell, or if they'd been for a test, or if they'd been diagnosed as positive. So that was the pre-planning. When it actually happened, we implemented a crisis sub-team or a rapid response team. We used a contact tracing guide to quickly identify any other workers that may have become close contacts of the positive cases. We stood operations down in the areas that were going to be effective and that needed deep cleaning. But we were able to do it in a way that we could still maintain our service to our customers in a very safe way. So, and we're able to do that by identifying the areas that the positive workers may well have contacted. And we had clear and open communications with all workers on site to let them know what was going on, because this was obviously a very scary time for the workers, seeing the site being cleaned and people being, some of the operational areas being stopped. And we also had very careful control of any external communications. And most importantly, we continued to monitor the welfare of those quarantining workers, especially the two workers that were COVID positive. And the result of all this pre-planning and the controls we put in place was that there was no transmission within the facility, and both workers are now back at work and fit and healthy, and both very appreciative of the support that they received. So that's the summary of our approach to COVID-19. The key takeaways, if I could just recap, and these are really important. A business needs to establish that clear oversight of the response to COVID-19. So whether it be a country steering team or a global steering team, that notion of a global framework but with local context, I think is very important. Start the planning early and implement consistent controls. I think everyone will have already been well past the planning stage at this point, but that, from our point of view, that worked. That was critical for us, that we started very early. You need to reach out to internal and external experts. So most of the internal protocols, the operational protocols, we developed in-house with our own people. Our workers on the floor, they knew what they had to do with a little bit of guidance from some of that external global help. Encourage open and prompt reporting from all your staff. You don't want people trying to hide the fact they've got a fever or coming to work feeling unwell. You really need to encourage people to report that. And as I said before, monitor the well-being of all of your staff, but not just the physical well-being, but your mental well-being as well. And that concludes the presentation that I had to share. So I'll just stop sharing my screen.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Craig. I would say that I am very keen to be part of CHEP company. You take care of your employee and your customer pretty in a very high standard. And I like to hear, like, I think many audience can say the same thing with me, that you put the standard in a very high in the concern of the safety of your employee and even the service you provide to the customer. So I have few questions, as you are key part of the value chain, especially on the food and agricultural products commodity like fruit, vegetable. I can see from your slide. One of the things in the past 6 months, we always have like shortage of products. In some country like Thailand, we even heard about like shortage of the stock because the logistics is the main problem. In other like people cannot reach to the products, not enough. But the true things may not be about the supply or logistics. But as you are part of the value chain, may I have your high level idea or opinion on your expert on the logistics, that how you see the effect of the COVID-19 that really affect on the logistics, and what CHEP has done to recover on the, how to say, the perception of people that because of the logistics was locked down. This is a part of the supply chain problem. So how you handle that perception?
So in a number of our countries, we didn't see, it was really important for the logistics, for regional logistics to continue to operate, and also CHEP is a critical part of so many supply chains. So it was important for us to get on the front foot very early with this, so that whatever happened with the pandemic, because as you know, we were all in the same boat. No one really knew where this was going to go, but we wanted to make sure that we did whatever we could to make sure that our factories kept going, and that was why we excluded external visitors. We didn't let anyone into our service centres who wasn't a worker there, because we needed to make sure that we could still supply product so that the logistics industry could still move product around the countries. Because if they didn't move, then the supermarkets would run dry. So that was our goal, was to keep the trucks moving basically and keep our customers moving. And I think we did that quite successfully right across Asia Pacific. So
yeah. So my next question is on because the COVID-19 is not really the foodborne disease, it's majority on the handling. So in this scenario, I've worried of the food supplier or even a consumer, that how food was handled safely. When you cope with that situation, how you manage your team, or because you are global solution provider, in some country has very much like high infected. For example, like Indonesia now, even today is 4,000 over infected. Philippines 4,000 infected today, and it is like the agriculture is main things in the Asia region. So how you handle that to ensure that using the logistic from chef would be the hygiene concentrate?
So our products, when they come back through our facilities, so things like pallets aren't in contact with food. They're really secondary packaging, and most of what we do is actually secondary packaging. So the things that are in contact with food, primary liners and things like that are sterile. Some of our products like crates that are in contact with, say, fruit and vegetables, part of our process is to sanitize those. Sanitize those every time they came back to CHEP, and then we would issue them to customers so that they were as clean as they were going to be when the customers started using them. And the chemicals we use to sanitize them are much the same as it's usually bleach-based products that you will have seen that many businesses use to wipe down tables and everything. So it's chemicals that were proven to be effective to kill the coronavirus. We had been using those for many years already within our facilities to sanitize our products. So our goal is when it leaves our factories, it is clean going to our customers, and then obviously the customers have their own protocols for managing the food safety that goes in them from that point as well.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Craig. And right now I will tell the audience that if you want to follow how chef put the standard together and also why they are the safe solution provider for your logistic, go to their website and have a lot of video, and you will enjoy watching that, and you will see that the innovation that technical adoption that chef has put in place for servicing on the logistic warehouse and palleting. So thank you very much, Kun Craig, for today. So right now I'm going to take our audience. Thank you very much, Ka. Next to our next experts. So the next session will cover on the innovation. So the importance of the innovation and hygienic solution during COVID-19. We have our two guest speakers from chef. So right now, I think it's pretty late in Australia already, but we get two of them together with us today. So may I introduce Mr. John Plummer. He is Chef Pallet Solution Asia Pacific Director. And with Mr. Frederick Gatz, he is a Chef Pallet Solution from Australia. So let us hear more about the importance of the innovation. I am very impressed on the Pallet that is really changed the way the logistic industry moving forward and help you to like sustain your business and even the cost saving. So I pass the stage to two of the experts, please.
Okay, thank you, Kun Rose. Thank you for that introduction. That was a very generous introduction.
I'm very generous.
And after that introduction, I was thinking maybe you should do the presentation, Kun Rose, because that was an excellent summary of our business. Now, Kun Rose, what I might do is I might share my screen so I can. I might use my screen, so I'll just. Okay. Can you see my? Okay. Can you see my screen?
You will share your screen.
Yes, I'll share my screen. Freddie, is that being shared?
Not yet, John. I can see you.
Okay. We said. All right.
Okay.
So it's coming now.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So we're good. Okay.
That's great, John.
Thank you very much. As I said, Kun Rose, thank you for the introduction. My name is John Plummer. I'm the General Manager for Pallet in Asia. and I'm joined tonight with my erstwhile colleague, Mr. Fred Gaddies. I've been working with CHEP for 25 years, and in that 25 years, most of that time has been spent looking after the Pallecon product or having an association with the Pallecon product. And my colleague, Fred Gaddies, he's been involved in the product since its inception, which was around 30 years ago. And there is not another person on the planet that knows more about Pallecon than Fred Gaddies. So it's great that I've got Fred here tonight to join me.
Thanks for the kind words, John.
Thank you, Fred. So look, we'll get into the presentation, and if you do have any questions during the presentation, by all means, feedback your comment, and we can take those questions at the end of the presentation. So we're in a pandemic at the moment, and a pandemic is a crisis by any definition. It's interesting how the Chinese view a crisis, and they view the crisis both as dangerous and opportunistic. And I'm kind of the same. I think that with COVID-19, obviously it's been a tragedy for the world, and it's caused a lot of economic pain. But I think that we will become stronger as we emerge from this pandemic. And certainly from our point of view, from CHEP's point of view, we are working very closely with a lot of our customers, and especially around the hygiene, quality, sustainability, and innovation piece. Now, the way that I view this is that pre-COVID, there was a lot of emphasis on price. And I think post-COVID, what we're now seeing is there's a lot greater emphasis, a lot greater focus on quality and hygiene. And I think ultimately, this will be a good thing for society. So if you're not familiar with CHEP, we are the world leader in pooling solutions. Now, a pooling solution is the share of an asset amongst many customers, okay? So it's the world's best reuse model or sustainability model. We have in our pool, so our collective amount of equipment, over 300 million assets. And in terms of the Pallecon product, which we'll go into in some detail, we have 400,000 Pallecons around the world in 60 countries, 9,000 employees. The company, it's an Australian company, it's in our top 25 biggest companies, and it's currently the market equity, okay, or the market value is $15 billion. And we started up in the late 1800s. So we're 138 years old. So we've been around for a long time. We've got a very strong business. And when you deal with CHEP, you are in safe hands. So what is a Pallecon? So in simple terms, a Pallecon is a box with a bag inside that contains about 1,000 litres of product, okay? So, but the technology around the Pallecon is actually quite great, and it's taken a little bit of time, 30 years, to develop to what we've got today. So the Pallecon is effectively a replacement for drums or cardboard or pails or bottle in cage type solutions. And what it allows you to do is it allows your business to create efficiencies. So efficiencies in cost, but also effectiveness in terms of quality and hygiene. So some of the features of the Pallecon include that it's easy to operate, so you get some productivity advantages. The walls are smooth, so there's no catches on it, so there's no safety issues associated with it. It folds down to 3.5 to 1 ratio, which allows very effective movement of the product when it's empty. It also allows you to store more effectively, okay? So your storage costs will reduce. It's compliant with a lot of food standards. And as I said earlier, it's one of the most sustainable and cost-effective solutions in the market. Those companies that have switched to Pallet have enjoyed not only better quality outcomes for their product, but better supply chain costs as well. So that's the outside of the Pallet. Let's have a look at what the inside of the Pallet looks like. So inside the Pallet, there is a liner. So effectively, the liner is 1,000 litre or a little greater than 1,000 litre plastic bag. But it's more than just a plastic bag, okay? There is a lot of technology which has gone into the production of what we call a co-extruded liner bag. What we use coax films in our liners because the coax films ensure the highest level of oxygen, moisture, and UV barrier performance. So what it effectively does, it minimizes the risk of any contamination. And then in terms of the way that you extricate the product or empty the product, we have valves. So in the second picture down on that slide, you'll see the valve that we use to empty the Pallet. Those valves are cleanable, and you can also get aseptic valves, which brings you into a whole new level of hygiene. The valves are tamper evident. So again, if there is any issue or if there's any suspicion that the valve has been tampered with, then this is clearly seen through the tamper evident locks on these valves. The valve structure has been designed to be cleaned with high temperatures for long periods of time. So if you're steaming it as part of an aseptic decant process, then the valves are designed to withstand that steaming for a long period of time. Again, ensuring the integrity or the safety and quality of your product. In addition to that, you can also order pre-sterilized liners. These are sterilized using an irradiation method, which ensures you have peace of mind and again ensures the integrity of your product. Fred, I might just hand it to you. Is there anything else that you would like to add in terms of the liner?
Yeah, thank you, John. Look, the complete package of the Pallet system in today's food and beverage market is highly sought after because of the integrity that we can provide a brand new clean liner, sterile liner every time. John mentioned the pre-sterilization that can occur through irradiation. So this is where after the bags have been made, we put the liner bags through an irradiation process, which sterilizes at 100%. And then after that process, there's no residue of irradiation that goes with that. But it provides that extra guarantee that the liner bag that you're about to fill your product into that, whether that happens to be a food or a beverage, is going into a container that, one, has never been used before, and secondly, the interior of that liner is 100% sterile. And that's quite important in today's market where we see a lot of people reusing drums or they're reusing stainless steel totes where it requires someone to actually clean that product before they refill it. So this actually takes away the requirement or the chance of putting your product into a container that may not be completely sterile or contaminant free. Now, when you add to that the benefits that John mentioned on the container, where we start to fold that container down and we're able to remove that container from the end user back to the starting point at a 3.5 to 1 fold down ratio, then very quickly you're also reducing your carbon footprint by the amount of units that you can return, as opposed to trying to return back drums that are now empty or containers that are now empty.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks, Fred. I think that was most helpful. So who do we serve in this market? So who do we serve in the Southeast Asian market? So a majority of the big multinationals are currently using this technology. So within the Thailand market, for instance, we've got Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Mondelez, Nestle, and throughout the Southeast Asia region, we have all of these customers that are currently on board and using our technology and taking advantage of the benefits that our technology provides them. So what are our credentials? So our credentials in terms of hygiene and safety standards, we're ISO 7 approved, class 10,000 in terms of the clean room manufacturing facility. So this is where we manufacture our liner bags. We're FSC 22,000 BRC. If there's any questions on that approval process, we can provide more information. We're halal and kosher verified. We have technology such as camera vision technology, making sure that every liner which comes off our production line is installed.
I know that, you know, regardless of whether it's our particular packaging or any other packaging that exists out in the marketplace now for food and beverage, I know that the food manufacturing companies like to know. They want to know that there is safety from the raw material that makes this type of packaging all the way through the end. So, you know, I think when we talk about you know, hygiene today, the ability to be able to say that we can trace that individual bag all the way back to the raw material is something that is a massive step in the way that we manufacture our bags today.
Thanks, Fred. One of the areas, and we spoke about at the start, the innovation that we're putting into play. One of the areas that we've really focused on is the high viscosity liner solution, or those products which are very thick in nature. So what we have is what we call the high viscosity technology liner. It's utilized by the world's largest companies in order to maximize what you can decant from the container, reducing the residual or reducing the amount of waste product which is left in the bag. And this is used across industry, including the raw materials into beverage companies. So those raw materials like the caramels and the flavors that go into beverage companies are used with the Pallet and using this high viscosity technology liner. The beauty of this liner is it's a set and forget solution. So what happens is during the decant process, you can set it and then it will decant using the mechanical apparatus or mechanical means. So why is it important for us to be able to decant the majority of the product out of the CHEP Pallet? Well, if you think about a drum or a bottle in cage, if you have 5% of the product remaining in a drum or in a bottle in cage, and if that product is worth $10, then the amount of wastage per drum or per bottle in cage that goes through the supply chain becomes actually even higher than the cost of packaging. So what we do is we put in place techniques and the technology in order to maximize the decant process, therefore reducing waste and ensuring that you're using the maximum amount of product that you can within your manufacturing process. Fred, any comment?
Look, yes, John. I guess the innovation behind this liner to remove as much of the residual as possible was actually driven by the marketplace. And you mentioned drums and the bottle in a cage, and it could have been a pail. All these things, when it comes to removing the residual, you know, you spoke about the cost per litre of some products, which are quite high. in most cases, the factories weren't or may not dispose of that product. The alternative to putting it into the bin and wasting all that product was that they would open it up and cut the liner, or they would get their hands in there and start touching the product. And the moment that you're having to do that process, that opens the opportunity for contamination to occur when the operators are actually coming that close to the product. So what we wanted to do is, part of that set and forget is to also eliminate the end user for having to come into direct contact with that product to get that last amount of product out. So, in a time where we spoke about COVID-19 and the crisis and making sure that the hygiene is there, this is a highly innovative product that allows the end user not to come in contact with the product to get that residual out. And I think that's a key takeaway from this product, and why, when you have a look at the bottom of this particular page here, you see some of the largest businesses in the world have grabbed this innovation and have run with it. And not only are they seeing cost savings, but they're seeing a reduction in handling, they're seeing a reduction in safety accidents, and they're seeing a reduction in the need for their operators to actually come in close contact with the food product as well.
Thanks, Fred. And then in terms of the maxi valve, we've spoken about the valves which are currently on our liner bags, and those valves which are either true aseptic, or we can steam sterilize them, and again they're halal and kosher approved. So what this slide is really showing us is that if you want a contaminant-free product, then using the maxi valve with our liner bags gives you that option. And then in terms of sustainability, CHEP's reuse, resilience and regeneration credentials are recognised by the top, the world's leading ratings agencies. And as we can see down there, companies like Morgan Stanley, Dow Jones, Barron's, they've all recognised what CHEP does and what we do in terms of our reuse model from a better planet and a better sustainability point of view. And so not only is it fantastic for our customers because you're dealing with a sustainable supplier, but it's also fantastic for our employees who like the fact that they're working for a company that have got such high sustainability credentials. So the next couple of slides is really looking at, so what are the benefits of using the Pallet compared to other types of packaging? And one of the things that we really focus in on is that it's not the price that we're looking at. So lowest price does not equal lowest cost. And what I mean by that is that the lowest price for a drum or for a cardboard box or for a Pallet, the input price doesn't necessarily mean it's the lowest cost. And so when we look at supply chain solutions, we focus on the entire cost, and we call this the total cost of ownership. And as part of that total cost of ownership, we focus on not only the direct costs, but also the transport costs, storage costs, the quality and safety and the risks associated with quality and safety, the productivity, so time to fill, time to empty, how much is left in the box, and also the disposal and waste component. So the way that we do it, we take a very consultative approach, and we have a very strong team in Thailand in particular that really understands the full cost of the supply chain. And what we look at then is we look at how do we compare, for instance, against drums. And this slide will give you some sort of understanding about what are the benefits of the Pallet versus the drum. So if we work our way around from the top of this slide, 4 drums on one pallet, okay, is around 800 litres compared to 1,000 litres with the Pallet. In terms of transport, the fold down ratio of the Pallet allows 1 truckload of empty palletcons to be moved, which is the equivalent of 4.3 truckloads of drums. So using the palletcon, you save over 3 full transport legs. Then when we go into look at storage solutions, the palletcon can be stored 5 high, which reduces your overall warehouse costs compared to the drums, which can only be stored maximum 3 high and only 800 litres per level. So again, there's significant costs involved in storing drum type solutions. When empty, the palletcon solution it leverages even further benefits because the amount of palletcons that you can stack when empty are 15 high, but empty drums can still only be stacked 3 high within a warehouse. So again, significant storage cost savings. And we've spoken about the residual and the use of technology in order to decant or empty the most amount or the maximum amount of product out of a palletcon compared to a drum, where typically you'd have 5% or more residual product remaining in the drum, depending again on the viscosity of the product. With the bottle and cage, the bottle and cage has become reasonably popular within the Southeast Asian region. And what we're seeing here is if we compare the bottle and cage to the palletcon, it doesn't really compare when we start to look at the dollar savings, and it doesn't compare when we look at the hygiene and quality factors. As this slide shows us, the bottle and cage is better than the drum, okay, but it's far less superior to the palletcon from both a transport, a storage, and a decant point of view. And there are some other risks associated with the quality aspects of the bottle and cage. In terms of decanting the bottle and cage, there needs to be airflow. And so to have airflow, the cap needs to be taken off to allow the air to flow into the product, which then brings out a potential contamination episode. The same situation for the drums. So with the palletcon versus the bottle and cage, not only are we getting savings, financial savings, but we also de-risk the solution. And the thing that everybody's keen on is, so how much can I save? All right. So we've done this savings was done in the USA for a syrups company, so a flavoring and syrups company in the USA. Okay, and so we won't go through each one of these savings. We'll just focus on what the total savings were. So there were savings in each of those elements: the packaging, the transport, the storage, production, residual, disposal costs. We didn't even factor in the quality and safety advantages associated with the palletcon compared to the bottle and cage. But even without those two elements factored in, we can see here that the cost saving, or the total cost for a palletcon, is around 27 cents a litre compared to 73 cents for a litre. So that's a 46 cent per litre savings. And if we compare that over the full 1,000 litres, 1,000 litres of product in a palletcon, okay, the packaging cost, so the total cost of ownership using a palletcon, is $277.80. And if we compare that to a drum, it's $737. So a $460 saving per 1,000 litres shipped. Now, in the example of the USA Syrup and Flavors Company, they were moving 10,000 tonnes per annum. So that 10,000 tonnes per annum equated to an overall savings, so a total cost of ownership savings of over $4.5 million per annum. And they are now one of our best customers in the USA, and one of the customers that quite willingly give us good references going forward. So what are we asking for you to do tonight? My suggestion is that we take action. A lot of times you'll sit through a presentation and you'll say, that's kind of interesting, but you've spent half an hour listening to us talk about pellicons, the advantage of pellicons from not only a quality and hygiene perspective, but also from a overall cost perspective. So now it's your turn to take action, okay? We've got some highly professional, we've got a highly professional team of consultants within the Thailand, within our Thailand team. They're experts on supply chains and doing value simulations to work out what you could save by changing from your current methods to the Pellicon method. And this next page has got the details of the contact points. So I would encourage you, those people that are listening to this presentation or watching this presentation today, to jot down the contact details of Sasarath, our national sales manager in Thailand. She's been involved with the Pellicon business for many years. She was one of our early recruits when we first launched in Thailand, and she's very experienced in the product. So I would encourage you to jot down her email address or her mobile phone number, give her a call and get one of the team out to visit you, because I think that there is some real value in the switch to Pellicon, and it can, and as I said, it not only will improve your supply chain costs, but will also have a significant impact on both the quality and the hygiene of your product. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present Khun Rose. It's always a little bit difficult virtually, and it's a little late here in Melbourne, but we really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm sure Fred's the same.
Thank you, Khun John and Khun Frederick, for sharing. I am looking forward to see your Pellicon and the liner that is ready for chemical products. Okay, I will look forward to see new shape development and innovation for the near future. But definitely for the audience here, you are in the beverage sector, so this is very interesting that you can save costs from the slide that Khun John already shared to you. That is the significant amount from the contact that Khun John mentioned. Next session, there will be our like country director with us today, and also to share, is it true on the cost saving? Listen to Khun John is not enough. We have to listen to the user who has experience on that cost saving. So I have one question, Khun John, from the audience on live. As you have mentioned a lot of innovation happening and the change and what the development even on the safe cost and even reduce the residue in the container, which is the old way is IBC. So right now the audience asks about the practice in terms of the sterilization system, because the equipment that you use, even the liner or even the bag inside, it's under the sterilization and make sure it's safety. So what do you think about the logistic company have to relook at how to, because the truck logistics still there should be in the future the sterilization system inside the truck for the near future. How you foresee and how do you think about that?
Yeah, look, that's a very good question, and thank you, Khun Rose. And look, we are focused, very much focused on the sterilisation within the box. And my opinion is that in terms of trucking, then going forward, that sterilisation will need to also move to within the truck. Now, what that looks like, if you have sterilised product within the truck, okay, I think that you're one step ahead. And I think that the next step is ensuring that there are closed trucks, okay, and within that truck that there's a sterile environment when the movement of product goes from the supplier into the customer. Now, what is the best way to sterilize that truck? there are many different ways to do that, and at the moment, I think that the method that they're using is really a sterilisation spray within the back of that truck, which I think is quite appropriate for today, and I think that will develop, or the methodology will develop even further as we progress, and as sterilisation and hygiene becomes more important within the supply chain.
All right, that's very clear. So I think the audience, if you have more questions in regard to the sterilization, I would suggest to contact chef personnel in Thailand or even in your country, because the audience is from abroad, I believe. My next question on the service of chef, I saw that the filtration, that seems like the company, if I am the beverage company or even the mascara company that trying to deliver the products. So meaning to say that the service of chef is under the rental service and they have to install the filtration in their factory. Am I right on that? Can you explain more on that, because there is audience from beverage sector, they may interested in using service and we are very shy when asking questions. So I ask on their behalf.
And I'm very shy in answering questions as well, Rose. But yes, we are a rental company, and what we do, especially in the beverage sector, is the movement of raw materials into the beverage plants. So we have many, there are many instances or references of the movement of syrups and flavors, okay, from one manufacturer into the beverage plants. And then in terms of the way that gets decanted in the manufacturing of the beverages, then there are many methods of doing that. What we need to do is we need to go out on site, have a look at the way that the current method of product going into the manufacturing process occurs, and then what we can then do is we can provide a recommendation on what is the best way to start using the better method, which of course is the Pallet method.
Okay. So thank you very much, Kun John and Kun Frederick. Now I'm going to take the audience to the next session to see the commercial view from our guest speaker. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Khop kun ka. So my dear audience here, you stay with me already about 1 hour. It's another 30 minutes. Let's hear from the experts in Thailand and also the user who really get experience already how chef and the palleting service by chef could help in their business. Here I have our guest speaker who is the chef country director, Kun Pong, Mr. Sorajak Mongkonsi with me here. So, and we have our guest speaker who is really the key customer of chef that can represent that what he experienced with chef, good or bad. Let's hear from him, Mr. Thanakrit Thanatip Hanon. So he is the supply chain manager from Harmless Harvest Thailand. Welcome ค่ะ both
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
So allow me to introduce myself again. My name is Sorajak Mongkonsi. So I'm a country general manager for Chef Thailand. I've been in chef business for almost 4 years. I used to be chef customer before I joined chef. I worked in logistic provider industry for 10 years, and I used to use a lot of chef pallet. So I become a part of chef family, and I'm very delighted to be here to share my expertise and experience with you of how chef solution could help optimize your business.
All right, so we have Kun Sorajak here. Most of the Thai audience, if you are following with chef, you can see Kun Sorajak many times. He is the spokesperson of chef in Thailand. So right now, you know both of them already. So I don't want to waste another like 1 minute from me at all. Let's hear from Kun Sorajak about chef in Thailand. So I pass this stage to you, Kun Sorajak.
Yep. So actually, I think as John mentioned, our companies provide what we call equipment pooling business. So we provide many material handling platform. Pallet is one of those business units, and also another type of container. And we provide under rental service. So it means that these containers will be shared and reused multiple times across many parties in a global supply chain. So we could say that we are backbone of a global supply chain that keep the cargo moving on our platforms. And I think I have a short video to introduce the concept behind our business. So maybe if we could turn on the video, please.
Resources. Luckily, there's an alternative to this model, one that mimics the most basic systems for living creatures. A smarter one, where waste becomes a resource and completes the circle. It's called the circular economy. It's restorative by intention. It relies on renewable energies, transforms waste into a reusable resource, and introduces it back into the circle. Are there companies, big ones, operating under this model? Yes, and some of them, like CHEP, are in a field that influences and affects many others. At CHEP, we are real experts in the pallet business. Pallets move all kinds of goods around the world. Most of our pallets are made out of wood. We try to make sure that it all comes from sustainable forests, ensuring reforestation. And when a pallet is damaged, we repair it so our pallet is ready to be used again. And the waste becomes material for new uses. So there's almost no waste at all. Our solutions are just like the circular model. Our pallets are used over and over again. But we don't stop there. We take it a step further by pooling our pallets. Once one of our pallets is used, let's say from manufacturer A to retailer B, we check it, fix it if needed, and offer it to another customer. Our customers share the pallets in an ever-increasingly efficient cycle. Simple and clever. Literally thousands of other companies use our pallets on a daily basis. But they don't buy them, they rent them, effectively sharing them with many other companies. With our presence in over 50 countries all around the world, it's no wonder that we have established a strong global network. This allows us to minimize transportation distances and to reduce empty miles. Applying the circular model locally and connecting all the parties into an efficient network, we do our part in boosting the whole system towards a no-waste sustainable process. This is our small contribution toward making our round planet a little better. At CHEP, we believe that sustainability is the fundamental principle on which our business is built, and that this principle should never change. It's in our DNA. And that is our responsibility, to continue building better supply chains together with our partners, and hopefully making our world a little bit better too. And it's just who we are.
Very interesting, right? So I would like to introduce Kun Thanakrit also to a bit share the commercialized video, the benefit you could get, and about harmless harvest. Please.
Let me introduce myself again. Sawadee krab. And my name is Nagrit, and I am as a representative from Harvest Thailand, and as a part to be the guest speaker today to share the experience about the pallet pooling that is provided by CHEP. But before we talk about that main topic, I want to just introduce my company a little bit first to give you a bit more information. So our company name Harvest. Our main business is literally about the young organic Nam Hom coconut, which is really aromatic. Thai people should be familiar with this. I would say it is the best coconut in this world. And our main business channel is still in the US. We sell exclusively in the US nationwide. We also have the Harvest Thailand, which is where I am working for as a subsidiary company in Harvest Thailand. Our main job is to control the operation and supply plan here, and also have to make sure that the taste of every single coconut water that we bottle will be as if it is from the real coconuts. And I would say that we just celebrate the 10 years milestone last month. I would say it was a very long journey that we have tried to make sure that every bottle that we produce will be labeled, that we label as harmless. Harvest will be really harmless. We have a lot of initiative that we do from upstream to the downstream to make sure that we will still be in a sustainable part. And that is why we have a collaboration with CHEP. And I also have some video introduction about our company to let you guys know more about Harvest. Enjoy the show. Environmental and society. And here you can see the processing, which our factory located in the middle of this coconut harvesting area. The process and then just pass through the process. This is our production line. And other than our coconut water business, we also have some business that we aim for a massive growth, which is the coconut meat business, that we use the coconut meat to produce the yogurt stuff. And here we go, we put our coconut water into the bottle. And I would say that lesson learned from this video is that pink is pure. Next time when you see the coconut water or drink your coconut water that is pink, that means it is a real young aromatic น้ำหอม coconut. It is because the pinking process is from like the oxidation, and that means the coconut water that is pink means that it has a lot of mineral that is suitable for your health. Yep, pink is good.
Yeah, I feel thirsty now. So it is very good to have the coconut drink now. I'm a fan of coconut drink. So I will put a question on the last session now. I would like to let Kun Sorajak also share a bit on Chef in Thailand and the sustainability that you have been working, or even how you work with your customers. Kun Sorajak, are you ready for that? Yes, please.
So yeah, actually we've been operating in Thailand since the year 2000. So almost 20 years now we're in Thai market. We have 3 business units. So we have pallet, we have pallet card, and we have automotive. A domestic pallet pool is our main source of revenue. And we've been providing domestic pallet to serve many parties in Thai supply chains, including modern trades, manufacturing, or even the company outside FMCG supply chain. Recently, we look into leveraging our global footprint. As you can see in the video that we have branches overseas and all is doing pooling business. So we look into starting to do international transaction of our pallet, which means that for Harmless Harvest, if you can see in the videos, before they join force with Chef, they're using one-way pallet to export their products. So it means they have to procure a new pallet every time they ship their finished product to US. And when the product arrive into US port, the retailers or the modern trade player in US like Costco and Walmart, they need to switch the pallet from the one-way export pallet into a storage and distribution pallet, which is currently is under our Chef platform. So they have to do a pallet transfer of products from a one-way export when they unload from a container to a Chef pallet, which is result in like a double handling, of course. That you need a workforce to move the box of coconut water from one pallet to the other. And what happened to those one-way export pallet? It become a total waste in US that they need to scrap. So with this pain point, and then we have a chance to discuss with Harmless Harvest and proposing a solution to streamline the process and reduce the waste for overall supply chain. So our objective, as like John also mentioned in last section, we didn't aim for to be a cheapest player, but we look at overall supply chain and work with our customer in based on partnership approach to find a way to help them optimize the cost in their supply chain. And for Harmless Harvest, the export pallet solution is the one that we propose to them. So maybe if I show a little bit of a presentation slide to explain our export model. Maybe some technical difficulty here. I haven't seen a slide up the screen. Okay, maybe give the team a few minutes to, yep. Okay, so this is the one. So this is explaining the current process that Harmless Harvest used to implement. So you can see that there are 2 handling process, right? You have to first load your finished good on the pallet at the production line, right? And then you load those pallets into the container. When pallet arrive into US, you need to change from one-way pallet into a shipped pallet. So it incur labor costs here at the destination to change the pallet, right? So our solution, if you can move to next slide. So this is the remaining of one-way pallet after they've been used at US distribution center. So the product taking out, and then the one-way pallet become like a waste, which is waiting to be scrapped. Next. So the solution we propose to them is providing our US pallet, SHEP platform US pallet to Hamlet Harvest in Thailand, and they can use this pallet right after the production line to pack their finished products onto those pallets, right? And then the product get loaded into the container, shipped to US. And then when the distributor or modern trade player at US sell the product, they can return the empty pallet back into US, back into SHEP US pool. So it means that these pallets, instead of being scrapped at US, it can be reused over and over again in US supply chain. Some of the pallet might be even shipped back to Thailand with the products, and then we can collect them and then reuse them again with Hamlet Harvest. So that is kind of creating a circular economy in a way that, you know, all the pallet and material handling platform is used without generating unnecessary waste. And that is the bigger purpose behind our business model, is to ensure that, you know, using our pallet or our service is making the world even more sustainable every time you use our products.
And to give you some more detail, the reason why we select SHEP as our main partner is because SHEP emphasize a lot about the sustainability. They try to make sure that the wood that they use to construct for a pallet will be only from like what you call
circular economy.
Circular economy. So it will not be from the deforestation, which is really suited to our company identity as Hamlet Harvest. We want to make sure that we would be able to maintain or even reduce the carbon footprint to the point that we are carbon neutral. And with this kind of idea, you need to make sure that our supplier will be aligned with us too. And it seems like SHEP is totally aligned with our mission to go to the carbon neutral, zero waste, zero landfill. And that is why we choose SHEP as the main partner for pallet exporting.
So, all right. So it is very clear from what Khun Thanakrith and Khun Saraja has give the explanation on circular economy. So right now, Khun Saraja, any more slide to give to the audience?
No, I think that's pretty much sum up the benefit of the export pallet.
So I now have the question for Khun Thanakrith. It's about when you decide to use SHEP as the service. What I interviewed Khun Thanakrith before to my dear audience, it's like Khun Thanakrith knock the door to SHEP and try to find a solution together. How you see the benefit that Hamlet Harvest really get from using the service and total solution for your export to US, which is pretty much difficult for the exporter from Thailand to get into the US market. Yeah.
I think I have to go back to explain a bit about the
Hamlet
Harvest business model first before I answer your question. So you might know or might not know that the coconut water business is heavily reliant on seasonality. So we harvest quite a lot, which start from September until December. This period is timing that we are in the harvest season. In this period, we have to harvest and produce the coconut water as much as possible to make sure that we will have enough supply to feed the coconut water to the customer. until the drop season, which would be from April onward. I would say that drop season usually start from after Songkran festival. We use a lot of water and then everything dry out. And with this problem, we have to encounter with shelf life. So it's like this. So we produce a lot of coconut water here during this period. But if we put our coconut water in the chill mode, it will not survive until after Songkran festival, and we have to scrap all. So in the previous supply model, we have to kind of freeze our product in the minus 18C room, store it until the right time we thaw, and then just do the repack at the US and sell to a customer. So you can see some complication, and I would say that it is like a double handling. You need extra repacking process at the US. You need more energy to lower the temperature to store in the freezer, and then need to exert energy to heat the coconut water up to the point that it fall and be able to do the repacking. And so I would say that with our first approach to the new supply chain model is to try to find a way to extend the shelf life to the point that we could be able to store our coconut water in the chill mode from now in peak season until the after Songkran festival. And we are still on the way to do that, and we already see some fruit of that result. When we can do that, that means we can start to eliminate the repacking activity at the US site, and that is when we start to approach SHEP to find a solution. Since we don't have to do a repacking, that means we can just do the FG finished good packing from Thailand, put it on a SHEP pallet, and to modern trade or tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 customers. And that is what we plan to do. And I would say that in overall, we could, with the new supply chain model, we could eliminate a lot of costs. We could cut down, I think, up to 5% off.
That you also save costs. That is the model that I think, Kun Saraja, you should open a workshop for the beverage industry to expand more on the indigenous beverage, and herbal beverage is now on the high rising for the COVID situation now. But may I ask a bit more on Kun Thanagrit, that how you see the impact of COVID to your company, if it is impact or it is very good?
I would say not that much. You can see data from, you can see the trend that almost every company faced with the sales drops after the COVID strike everyone. We cannot avoid this. And the good things for Hamlet Southwest is that we are on a niche market. We procure only organic Yang Nam Hong coconut, which is like the premium in the premium sector. We try to make sure that our coconut water in the bottle quality will be as finest as possible. And that is why we do not have any much effect from the COVID strike that much. Our consumer is like in the premium sector, and their buying power is like I would say the COVID situation does not affect with us that much. But even so, we try to defend the overall sales channel as much as possible. But I would say we still struggle with the sales drop. After the COVID situation happened for 2 months, I think it would be around 10% drop of sales, even with our best effort, which is quite okay if you compare with the overall market, which would be more than 40% drop sales or demand. So we try to find a way to fill that gap. I would say that if the customer doesn't come for you, you just go to find customer, and we try to launch new product. I would say we try to launch a new channel, which is called e-commerce. We try to expand our selling channel, not only in the modern trade, but to deliver our products, our finest product to the customer. And it happened to start from this month onward that we have a collaboration with Amazon. we will ship our products directly from our warehouse to customers. Don't have to pass the Costco or any sort of modern trade anymore. And I think that this would trigger more potential growth in the future. We project to have a lot of sales in this channel, quite a lot.
All right. So I think like the coconut water, not only for Thai people, we are like getting used to getting coconut along the street when we drive to Ban Phel area or even Nakhon Pathom area. But guys, it is interesting to know that most of the coconut drinker in Western country or even US, they look at coconut as the antioxidant drink. So this is the way above what we are thinking here. So sooner I wish Kun Thanakrit will have even more products into the market, and with the concept of sustainability, I believe the harmless harvest will bring the sustainable products into the market, and the food service chain is looking for product from company like you. So now come to Kun Sauraja. I have question from the audience here because the audience is from beverage industry. I would say that we already run out of time, but last question for Kun Sauraja here is how you see the impact of COVID-19 to the Thai beverage industry?
Well, based on my perspective that I observing customer volume that using Chef, I think that the customer in FMCG supply chain doesn't show a significant trend of volume reduction. So I think everything is quite stable. In some product category, it's even increasing in the lockdown period. But so in my view, the beverage industry in Thailand doesn't have a significant impact from COVID based on the trend of usage that we see through our pool. And also that also gives us a good opportunity as well to because every company is now start looking aggressively for cost saving because uncertainty of economy, right? So let's open our door to going in and being a partner with them to help them optimizing the supply chain and reducing costs, the overall cost. So I see that as an opportunity, not a challenge in my view.
All right. So yeah, audience, so we run off of the time already. Today we get a lot of experts and the real user for Chef solution. So today I would like to thank you all of you, and before I finish this webinar, I would like to share the video from Chef for the thank you word from Chef to all of you, and let's make the zero waste for this world together. Thank you คุณสรจักร and คุณธนกฤษค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
We can do more. We can leverage our existing network, scale and expertise to solve shared challenges. We are uniquely positioned in the supply chain to design new ways to eliminate waste by helping customers determine when a reusable solution makes the most sense in the supply chain. Analyze the millions of lanes in the transportation network, creating collaboration opportunities to eradicate empty miles as a neutral connector among different companies. Illuminate the supply chain with digital capabilities. helping customers cut out inefficiencies and reduce waste that costs money and generates carbon. We also think we've started that work, helping to get hundreds of thousands of meals to those in need. Through reforestation activities, we continue planting thousands of trees in important ecosystems. This is just the beginning. By working together, we can progress towards a zero-waste world and beyond.
Tiếng hài